What's up, everybody? I go by Aiden Cash, and I am a future Ashes of Creation player. Super excited for the game and everything that Intrepid Studios has been showing us. Just recently, they did their August 2022 developer live stream. If you want to check that out in full, I'll leave the link in the description down below. There were a bunch of things that were revealed in that live stream, including the map that you see behind me. I wanted to kind of start off talking about one of the questions that the viewers had toward the end of the live stream. So I'm going to go ahead and run the clip.
If people only navigate towards certain nodes in certain areas because those areas are where people want to gravitate towards for specific content or specific resources and stuff like that. Are there going to be areas that make you want to have those nodes in other areas? So it's not just like this area becomes like the popular thing.
Right. And what I'm hearing in that question is like, there's always going to be a best node, and that's not the case.
I think that's their concern.
There will not always be a best node.
Perfect.
The way that content is separated, the way that materials are separated, the way that the zones are regionalized, the way that transit matters ensures that regions will have important nodes.
I just want to second what Steven was saying there in terms of there not being a best node, because again, if all the design philosophies and, systems and things of that nature come to fruition the way that Intrepid Studios is planning, I think there's going to be a very dynamic, living, breathing world, especially in relation to the node system. So with that said, I don't really think we have anything to worry about in terms of centralization. But as of right now, I think there are some things that you can look at on the map and kind of see like, okay, this area looks like it would be strong if this were to develop this way, or if this type of node was here, this would be very strong because of these reasons. And basically, I just wanted to go over that and point out some of the areas which I have personally nicknamed on the map and talk about why I think they're strong and whatever. There's a couple things that are going into my assessment of these areas, and it's really just a couple things, right? Because we don't know much about the node layout. Again, we don't know much about the starting zones, and those things would definitely change my analysis of these areas. However, I do think that two things that I'm going to mention are going to be very, very strong if you have, access to these types of features in your zones. There's a lot of historical analogs to rich areas having ports, right? Now, again, in the game, they're going to be harbors up and down the coast. Places with harbors are going to be doing a lot of trading. I don't see that playing out another way. An interesting thing is that I don't know if harbors are going to occur on like coasts of lakes right here, or potentially on rivers or whatever. I mean, those lands are technically coastal, right? They're called different things, shores and banks, but either way, I don't know if harbors are going to be on all bodies of water or just on like major oceanic coastal areas. Obviously, the more harbors, the more economic power and maybe not power, but the more economic influence you might be able to exert developing a certain zone or what have you. The second aspect of what I think will make a certain area strong is any area where multiple biomes are very close together. Why? Because that diversity of resources, we know that the game is being designed to have different resources spawn in different zones, and any area where there's multiple biomes that can be accessed quickly, getting all these different resources, there's going to be trade, there's going to be a lot of crafting going on. I just think it's a very strong case for an area that will develop quicker than others and has an advantage in the fact that you have access to all these different things. So now I want to get into the areas themselves. And the first ones that I want to talk about that I think are very obviously just going to be strong are the islands. So here, let's put a little check mark on them, right? And here. The reason I think islands are going to be very good is because, again, resources and what you can gather and where is going to vary quite a bit, as stated by Intrepid Studios in Ashes of Creation. So if on these islands, there's a situation where you can go there and sort of bring a guild or a large enough group to, essentially take control of the island, develop a node, maybe a metropolis. I think what happens then is that you might be able to put yourself in a situation where you're monopolizing a certain resource that could be very useful to, X amount of people for different reasons. And then you're essentially exerting economic influence, You essentially have a fortress that you can fortify on this island. I think islands are very, very strong for a lot of reasons. You might not be able to get there right away, and by the time you get there, the other 5 metropolis nodes might be developed. However, if you are fortunate enough to make your way to an island and either develop a metro or just a very strong node in general, and again, the cherry on top of that would be if there were some type of unique resources that only you could get from that island, or that you could only get on that island rather, very strong position. I think you're set up well for a lot of things. One specific island that we really should mention, Pelagora. Pelagora is not only an island, but you'll notice that this little cavern area, okay, right here, is looking like a different biome than the rest of the island. The rest of the island kind of looks like a desertish biome, you know what I mean? And then we have sort of this like foresty looking thing with the pond in the middle surrounded by the mountains. Yeah, so all the other islands are indeed a single biome. Pelagora, potentially 2 biomes, which means you're essentially getting double the chances at monopolizing unique resources. So I think Pelagora is going to be a very strong island, might be the strongest island of the islands for that reason. A lot remains to be seen. We don't know. Moving on to other areas that I think are going to be very strong, I want to talk about an area that I've personally nicknamed Whale Tail. This kind of looks like a whale, right? It's not just me. Like it's kind of whale taily. You know, especially if you cut off this peninsula here, kind of got a whale tail there. Anyway, why is whale tail a strong area? I'll tell you why. Because the 2 things that we talked about were access to water, okay? Gonna put a check there because we got that. And multiple biomes. As you can see, we got a desert over here. That's one biome. We got the Jundark. I don't know what the name of that biome is, but it's clearly something different than these other 2. And then we have the 3rd biome, which is the Riverlands, okay? And as you can see, it's all very close together. It's very likely that there's going to be harbors, you know, in this neck of the woods. Now, how many harbors? I don't know. I think it would be pretty silly if there wasn't more than one. You know, that remains to be seen. But the point is that there's going to be a whole sort of triangle trade here. And all these resources in this region are going to be pretty easy to acquire if, you know, you have groups of people that are sort of nested in these different biomes and, you know, doing all the gathering and crafting that needs to be done. I think the amount of trade that's going to be happening in this region is going to be very, very high. Anyone who sticks around or develops nodes here is really in a good spot. If you can ally with, you know, this biome, right? If you can get, you know, biome 1, biome 2, and biome 3, you know, working together on different things, I think there's really a lot to be gained from setting up this area well. That's Whale Tail. Another region that I think is going to be pretty good, I call IU. Why do I call it IU? So if you come up here and look at Illyrium, right? This little area right beneath the IU, okay? There's 3 biomes here, right? IU, boom. 3 biomes here. Now, again, like maybe the node is here and here and here, and you know, it's not really that easy to go from here to here, or you know, from here to there, whatever the case is. Maybe it's not so simple to get around. The point is though, is that there's going to be points of entry somewhere in this area, right? And even if the nodes are kind of more central to the different biomes, right? It is very possible that we might see freeholds that are able to be here, 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 whatever. And these are very close to each other, right? I think that, again, this sort of multi-biome area where all these different resources can only be captured from the red mountain biome, volcanic biome, I don't know what it's actually called, the ice biome, whatever this biome is up here on the top left. It just seems like it's going to be providing a lot of trade and a lot of opportunity to do some things that you might not have been able to do in other areas, or if things were farther away. So again, that's IU Illyrium, IU of Illyrium, however you want to say it. Could have come up with a better name for that one, but I know what else to call it. So that's that. I think that area is going to be pretty good. And that's another one. And so the last area that at least I wanted to talk about so far is what I'm going to call the ocarina, right? Because if you look, we got a little ocarina here. Okay. This is the ocarina of time. Boom. Okay. We have the fidget spinner, right? And then we have the hammerhead shark. Okay. So ocarina, fidget spinner, and hammerhead. So hammerhead, right? This is hammerhead. I think this area is going to be pretty strong. Again, you have one biome here, second biome, three biome. That's three biomes, one area. There's a very small amount of water in between the three biomes. This is something that if you were really invested in it, if you wanted to guard this area, this little gulf or whatever it is, this part of the ocean, you could do that. Make sure that, you know, goods were going through. Maybe there's some naval guilds out there that want to control a piece of the ocean or whatever. I think that, you know, something that they like this, a piece of ocean that's, you know, kind of closed off in this manner is be very manageable. There's obviously going to be another triangle trade here, right? Of, you know, all this different stuff going on. Now, if you look closely, right here is really interesting because the bottom side of Hammerhead actually spills into this river and spills into Ocarina. And Ocarina spills into this river, which goes into the ice biome. And even at the top of Hammerhead, like this point and this point, really not that far away. So what you have is a situation where there's essentially a potential 4 biomes. It is possible that this biome and this biome are the same. Either way, there's still 3 biomes at least in very close proximity when you take a look at this area of the map. And that would be here, here, and here, with potentially 4 going off. So there's a lot to consider there, and it's all got a lot of access to water. It's all relatively close together. If it's not that close, you can kind of get to it. Again, we don't know if there's going to be harbors on lakes or rivers. If there are, I think a lot of the strength of some of these areas will skyrocket. It just looks like it's going to be a very, very powerful place to set up. And so, yeah, that's my thoughts on the geographic strategy. I think, you know, if you really want to set up a node that has a lot of potential economically, that you might want to take into account the, again, access to water and the multiple biome strategy. I think that if you can partner up with, you know, a couple groups or have a large enough group on your own to take control of areas with those characteristics, then you should be in a pretty good spot. Now, nothing I've said is really rocket science. I think that if you're really thinking about it, you can probably have gathered these things on your own, especially if you're sort of a history buff and you've kind of realized these things anyway, again, with the parallel to the access to water and whatnot. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video, share my thoughts on the situation. Let me know if there are any areas that you think I missed that look very strong to you. I'd love to hear about it. I'm starting a Discord. I'm calling it the Strategic Creation Discord. It's sort of like an Ashes of Creation think tank. So if you want to nerd out and talk to me about different areas of the map or just anything in the game strategically and what you think, you know, the meta might be, as so to speak, or you just want to brainstorm different ideas and things like that, yeah, join the Discord, talk to me. I definitely plan on playing Ashes of Creation at launch, hopefully also as well at Alpha 2. So yeah, that's about that. Peace.